Celebrating World Turtle Day. We go into the sea today to find out about turtles, the oldest reptiles in the world, as old as the dinosaurs, over 200 million years old. Sri Lanka has 5 of the 7 species of sea turtles in the world, but as these gentle creatures are hunted for their eggs, meats and shells, they are dangerously endangered. Welcome to Prime Group Kaleidoscope with me, Savithri Rodrigo.
Welcome to The Grand Ward Place, an award-winning condominium project where luxury embraces aesthetics, discernment, life and privacy as one. Call 0702 777 777 to schedule a private viewing today. The Grand, there is only one.
Up ahead on our show, Daniel Alphonsus puts some clarity into Sri Lanka's money situation. Karthik Elangovan talks on interest rates and rising costs. Fabienne Francoth delves into trauma through her art. Plus, keep watching for lots more.
Did you know you can open a digital fixed deposit with just 5,000 rupees? Open a CDB iDeposit digital fixed deposit today. CDB, your friend.
We are on 4 social media platforms. Subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe was sworn in as Finance Minister this week, keeping in mind that he is already the Minister of Economic Stability and National Policies. He will present an interim budget within 6 weeks, slashing infrastructure projects to reroute funds into a 2-year relief program. Providing food, fertilizer, pharmaceuticals and fuel are a priority. He also warned that Sri Lanka has to print another 1 trillion rupees due to the drop in rupee revenue and that annual inflation could skyrocket past 40% in the coming months.
Welcoming all of you with warmth and care. Commercial Bank. Our interest is in you.
It's time for a quick look at our week on Commercial Bank Snapshot. The April 2022 year-on-year rate of inflation as measured by the National Consumer Price Index is at 33.8%. The World Bank says it will not offer new financing to Sri Lanka until an adequate macroeconomic framework is in place. Sri Lanka's merchandise export earnings increased by 11.9% year-on-year to $915 million in April. The WHO will give Sri Lanka $2 million in medical assistance. The world's most expensive car, a rare Mercedes-Benz SLR Coupe, has just sold for $142 million.
Welcoming all of you with warmth and care. Commercial Bank. Our interest is in you.
Welcome, you're watching our Commercial Bank News Capsule. A regular guest on our show, Director and CEO of First Capital Holdings, Dilshan Veerasekara, has been appointed Chairman of the Colombo Stock Exchange from the 24th of June. Meanwhile, at the Colombo stock market, the all-share price index remained flat, while the average daily turnover was at just over 2 billion rupees. WTI oil held steady above $110 per barrel. A stronger US dollar kept gold prices in check around $1,850 per ounce. While the economic crisis in Sri Lanka deepens, the non-banking financial institutions, which essentially serve the non-bankable community, including SMEs and the transport sector, has seen drastic changes. I caught up with CDB's Director, Chief Emergent Business Officer Karthik Elangovan to gain some insights. With government treasury bills currently yielding something like 24% for 3, 6 and 12-month maturities, what changes have been made to the NBFI deposit rates to ensure that depositors actually benefit from these interest rate hikes?
The NBFI sector has taken prudent measures to pass the maximum benefit for the depositors by giving best rates for short and long terms, adjusting the institution's pricing strategy which reflects a premium to bank rates.
So with costs of funds increasing, how have the NBFIs actually passed on these costs to the borrowers?
With the segmented approach that we have, considering the current capital appreciations, NBFI have taken measures to ensure that the borrowers are not excessively burdened by the cost of borrowing. through a market-driven credit policies and products, including risk-based pricing.
How has the NBFI industry assisted the transport and informal SME sector?
These sectors have been facilitated through moratorium schemes and flexible repayment plans by assisting them on easing their financial burden, at the same time managing risks and ensuring safeguarding interest of all stakeholders. Whilst the country worked towards a revival economic plan in the short to medium term by building foreign reserves through tourism, remittance and value-added exports.
4 authors are vying for Sri Lanka's most coveted literary prize, the Gratian Prize. 3 are unpublished manuscripts, A Place Called Home by Uvini Atukorala, The Lanka Box by Kiara Manduli Mendes, and Talking to the Sky by Rizvina Mosatti Alves, and the published novel, An Unmarriageable Man by Ashok Ferry, who was on our show when he launched the book. The winners will be announced next month. A group of cave explorers stumbled upon an ancient forest, probably the remnants of a prehistoric world, hidden at the bottom of a 630-foot deep sinkhole in China. Cultural boundaries blur beautifully in this stunning Indo-Western fusion dance that has taken the internet by storm. Choreographed by and featuring the Paris-based Lankan dancer Usha Jay, this one-of-a-kind hybrid dance combines traditional Bharatanatyam with modern hip-hop. Truly fascinating.
Welcome to the Grand Ward Place, an award-winning condominium project where luxury embraces aesthetics, discernment, life and privacy as one. Call 0702 777 777 to schedule a private viewing today. The Grand, there is only one.
If you're looking to save some time by speeding up your reading, simply hop onto the bandwagon with Sanjeev Jayaratnam's speed reading. You can learn to speed read from anywhere in the world. Just let us know and you could be gifted a whole program free.
World of risks and obstacles, we are there to help you reach your goals. With 12 billion rupees worth of customer benefits in 2020 and a life insurance fund worth over 100 billion rupees, our strength is your strength. You focus on your goals, we will take care of the risks. CoLife.
In the midst of one of the worst economic crises in Sri Lanka's history, the country has been wooing the IMF for a bailout. We have just picked Lazard and Clifford Chance as advisors for the debt restructuring. This is the 17th time Sri Lanka has sought out the IMF since its first program in 1965. Since then, the country has entered into 9 other standby agreements and 6 extended facilities, and of these 16 programs, only 6 have been completed. Faced with the country's dire and debt-ridden state, many see an IMF program as a much-needed leg up. With me today is the former advisor to the Ministries of Finance and Foreign Affairs and Fulbright scholar at Harvard, who also read philosophy, politics and economics at Oxford, Daniel Alphonsus. Welcome to Selling CoLife. Let's talk, Daniel. Just to put things in perspective, we have no dollars, we have no rupees, we have no IMF bailout in sight. And the crisis right now is we have no fuel. Do you have a solution for this?
Well, I think the solution has been obvious for some decades now. What Sri Lanka needs to do is to allow market forces to work effectively. It needs to raise taxes so that the state has enough revenue to fund its commitments. And third, it needs to ensure that government expenditure is significantly utilized more productively rather than wasted on all sorts of white elephant projects and on a over-bloated public sector.
The IMF bailout, there doesn't seem to be anything in sight. We don't seem to have got our act together. Even though we have appointed financial advisors, there's no repayment plan. We seem to be vacillating. Is that conclusion correct?
So if we look at the IMF program, there's 2 stages. First, there's an agreement between the government of Sri Lanka and the IMF staff. Now, there is some optimism that this can be concluded within the next few weeks, and that essentially sets the framework of the technical details of an IMF program. What measures does the government of Sri Lanka need to take in order to be eligible for board approval, which is the second stage. It's only upon board approval that the IMF can disperse funds or loans to Sri Lanka. Now, a condition for board approval is that Sri Lanka's debt is perceived to be sustainable in the long run. With respect to a staff level agreement, once that is in place, hopefully within the next few weeks, it may help us unlock bridge financing from bilateral and other creditors and partners as well.
We do need a program, whatever it may be. We need the money. How do we get that right?
In my view, the measures that are required in the long term are also measures that will assist in the short term. Essentially a restoration of the government's credibility, that it acknowledges that there is a serious problem. That seems to be the case now, unlike in the past. But then taking the necessary measures to really ensure that the three topics that I mentioned at the beginning of this interview, allowing market forces to function properly, increasing taxes to put public finance on a stable footing, and ensuring that expenditure is optimized properly. On the first point, I'd like to illustrate it with an example. Consider the case of the money printing that took place, which is one of the more proximate causes for the current crisis we're in. That would not have taken place probably if we had an independent central bank. And in order to have an independent central bank, we need to pass legislation, but also constitutional change. So Sri Lanka's problems are interlinked political and economic problems. And if we are serious about solving them today and for tomorrow, these are the measures we need to take.
How important is a national consensus in going forward with any program?
We need to have across the board, and when I say across the board, it's not only across the board of political parties, but other stakeholders in society, industry, the bureaucracy, media, and so on, a general understanding of the forces that shape economies and how they work, and come to a national consensus, as you put it, on the direction Sri Lanka should take within a broad framework. Of course, the details, there will always be differences. But whether we want to be a closed economy, whether we want to be an open economy, these fundamental things, I think there needs to be broad agreement on.
Do you think we will get the funding we really want?
The question is more a question of when. And the amount of pain we'll have to go through in that process. There are faster ways and less painful ways of doing that, and that is to act quickly. We've already delayed acting for a couple of years now. This problem people have been talking about for 3-4 years at the very least. But in fact, the measures that have been taken have only precipitated it. So if we act now, I think we can have a program in place potentially within 6 to 9, potentially 12 months. If we dilly-dally, it could take much longer. And Sri Lanka's debt profile is quite complex. The restructuring it is not a straightforward task. So we really need to act quickly and boldly.
So Daniel, let's hope what you say about acting fast and acting speedily to get ourselves out of this mess would work, because all we can do otherwise is pray and hope that things will turn out well. Her work is about trauma, about abuse, about migratory displacement. Fabienne Francoeur was confronted with stories of abuse, of trauma, and about migratory displacement when she worked not just in Sri Lanka, but also with the Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh and troubled youth in Belgium, in addition to other places where she came across people who have suffered trauma in various forms.
The idea is that after trauma, how do you get back in life? Because you have to stand up. So how do you stand? You need the kneecap. It's just the joint
That'll keep you upright.
that keeps you upright.
What are the key aspects that actually inspired you to do things like this?
We usually want to hide what is ugly to be seen, and we don't want to talk about things that are not lesson here, but all over the world. It's too complicated, and we don't have the solution. But by opening the door and recognizing this is existing, I think this is part of our responsibility as a society. I took parts of the body that we can just look at and think about what are the hands representing. And these are the repetition. This is the repetition of the number of times, because the others, they can see it.
Until we are back next Friday, here's our Kaleidoscope takeaway with a focus on endangered turtles.